Right. Mm, 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 mm. This is going to be a tricky post game to do because the Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers, man, Knicks are pretty freaking good. And they are proving that to us more and more by the day, by the hour, by the quarter, by the minute. This was going to be a jump out the window post game. As those of you who have been watching me for a while well know, I'm not someone who gives over easily to temptation to really just be all the way in to not even, I'll taste the Kool-Aid occasionally. It's very good. So how do you not taste it? I'll taste it occasionally. I don't chug the Kool-Aid. This was going to be a chug the Kool-Aid post game after what was like, they've had so many big wins now, and they've had so many big wins since the trade. This was yet another unique sort of win, and I'm going to get back to talking about that in a minute because it deserves to be talked about because their effort and their execution, frankly, deserves as much praise as we've given them in a very long time. And yet, I'm conflicted because I feel like it would be inappropriate to be in a celebratory mood after this game because Julius Randle, with a handful of minutes left in the game, exited after he went up for a layup attempt with Jaime Jaquez, the Heat's latest in a very long, distinguished line of players who will probably figure out a way to injure your best player. Slid under the basket as he was in charge/block position, and Randall landed very awkwardly on his. It looked like he landed directly on his shoulder, and then immediately was in a lot of pain. Called for the bench, had to go to the locker room, and I'll be curious if we get any update from Tom Thibodeau after this game. I'm not even going to speculate. Like, my first thought when I saw the injury was dislocated shoulder. And because, like, I've had a dislocated shoulder. I'm sure probably a lot of people watching this right now have had a dislocated shoulder. Like, maybe it's that. I hope it's that. Or, it didn't look like a bruise. That's for sure. The way Randall was going, it didn't look like a bruise. So I think we have to hope that it's a dislocated shoulder and not something worse. If it's something worse, I don't want to start off the show talking about like scenarios where Randall is out for any significant period of time. We just have to keep our fingers crossed, because for as much as he has driven a lot of fans, I don't care if you're the biggest Randall supporter in the world. At some point, he has driven you nuts since he's been here. I don't care if you're the biggest Randall critic in the world. It is impossible to watch what the Knicks are doing right now and how much dominance, and that's the only word for it, how much dominance, how much confidence, poise, synergy, like all these words that we throw around when a basketball team is playing well, they all apply to the Knicks right now. It is impossible to watch them and think about all the things that they are doing well and all of the praise that we are lavishing upon them and not focus on Julius Randle being at the center of it all. Is he the driving force? No. Jalen Brunson's the driving force. Jalen Brunson is their MVP candidate. Jalen Brunson is their superstar. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about him because what do you know? He had another outstanding game that makes it look utterly ridiculous. He's not starting the All-Star game. And Randall hasn't even been the thing that has clicked, that has taken them from, a 7 to a 9 or, whatever you want to go, a 9, an 8 to a 10. That's been OG Anunoby. We're going to talk about him in a minute. But like, you need him. And Randall being at the best version of himself takes them from a good team or a great team to a great team, or maybe even a team that can fuck around and beat multiple contenders in the same postseason. Because again, that is the level that they are playing with right now. So we hope Randall's okay. I mean, they're gonna need him if they want to do anything serious this year. We could leave it at that. All that being said, is this team equipped to withstand they have two All-Star. I think Randall's going to make the All-Star team. They're going to have two All-Stars, I think. One of those All-Stars, they are not equipped to handle the loss of at all. Of the two, they are far more equipped to handle the loss of Randall if, and I hope it doesn't come to this, although at this point, I think we would have to assume that it probably will. They are more equipped to withstand the loss of Randall for a sustained period of time. It would look a little bit different. They would be, again, down to one genuine playmaker, guy who drew attention. If this was a really sustained injury, and this was like a months as opposed to weeks thing, maybe even if it's a weeks thing. And again, I feel I don't even want to say those words because I don't want to talk that into fruition. Maybe that increases their level of urgency in terms of the trade deadline. I don't know. It would put a lot more on Jalen Brunson. It would put a lot on a lot of guys to step up and do things that maybe they're not comfortable doing. All that being said, they still have Jalen Brunson. And that's the key. And as long as he's healthy, if Randall has to miss time, you slide in OG Anunoby at the starting four. I would bet any amount of money they would slide Josh Hart, who had an outstanding game today, into the starting three, keep DiVincenzo with the two, and then you kind of just work down from there. My bet would actually probably be that they would go with an 8-man rotation with Deuce Grimes and a center coming off the bench. I feel like I've taken a lot of time on that, but it deserves it because that's how important Julius Randle is to this team. And the thought of being without him for a sustained period of time is, I don't want to think about it. Who knows? Maybe by the time people are listening to this on their podcast feeds on Sunday morning, we already have encouraging news. So that's what I'm going to hope for. Let's talk about this game. Did not start well. I think the Knicks got down 9 early, 13-4. I think that was their biggest deficit. They were clanking shots. I think I saw someone say Brunson, Randall, and DiVincenzo were like a combined 1 for 10 to start off the game. Okay, maybe they got out of the little gates a little sluggish. Miami hit some nice transition threes, whatever. And then from like the middle of the first quarter on, the Knicks were in, for the most part, exclusively no fucking around mode. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But the first guy that I got to talk about on this post-game show is a much maligned Nick. Yes, do I revel in being able to pump up this guy when he has good games because of how much hate he gets after games where he does not come through? Absolutely. But Josh Hart continues to be an absolutely massive part of what they do. There is a reason they acquired him. There's a reason they paid him all this money. Guys like that win you games. And I don't know if it's going too far to say he won them this game, but it's not a coincidence that their energy completely turned around and changed once he checked in the first quarter. And his activity on the defensive end, his activity in transition, finished with 14 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. That's a hell of a Josh Hart game in 32 minutes. So Josh Hart, like without Emmanuel Quickley especially, he's the guy that's going to come off the bench and change the energy. Deuce McBride hitting threes, massive. Quentin Grimes, my God, are we going to talk about Quentin Grimes? Him being able to come in and hit threes and make plays defensively and be aggressive off the dribble. How you doing? Now, if we could just hit some free throws. Important. Like Achua, we're going to talk about him. Like really, this is a game for as much as the Randall injury is the headliner, and for as much as Jalen Brunson, as he is every game, is a headliner. And yeah, we're getting to OG. I thought the bench really deserved a lot of kudos in this game because their energy turned their game around in the first half. It was a very tight game. They gave the Knicks, they got the Knicks back in the game. Some of that was when Julius was still in with the bench. And then the bench exclusively. And then from there, the Knicks basically played steady, solid basketball throughout the rest of the first half. Third quarter, I thought was a third quarter of runs. We had a Miami push, a Knicks push, a Miami push, a Knicks push. And then Miami made their big push. Or I should say Jimmy Butler made his big push. It was all Jimmy. He scored or assisted, I think, on all but 3 of those 14 points when the Heat scored 14 points in 2 minutes and 23 seconds to end the third quarter. Almost end the third quarter because, again, here's that guy, Julius Randle, taking more threes recently. Only took 4 in this game, made 3 of them. You don't think that's huge? His 3 ball is always important. I would argue it is as important against this Miami team who has a way of flustering him and frustrating him inside the arc that I'm not sure many other teams in the league do. They're able to do it. So he knows he has to hit threes against his team. Again, 3 or 4 from deep in this game, including that massive one for momentum to give them the lead heading into the fourth quarter. Thought that was huge. And then that started the snowball rolling down the hill. And that snowball included, as usual, Jalen Brunson, because again, Jalen Brunson's at the center of every big push that they make almost always. But OG Anunoby and Quentin Grimes. Already talked up Josh Hart. Other than Brunson, I thought they were the 2 guys that deserve the most praise tonight. It was a rough few weeks for Jalen Brunson for Quentin Grimes. He was actually. I'm gonna interrupt my point here to read a tweet that Fred Katz just had. So Julius Randle's being evaluated right now. This is per Tom Thibodeau. It's a shoulder injury, did not specify further. It's very concerning. Said it's very concerning, but you're concerned anytime somebody gets hurt. You hope for the best. If he's out, next guy gets in there and gets it done. It's about what I expected to hear. This is interesting context. This is from Bondi. Tibbs said what he said, and then there was a follow-up question about, is he concerned? And then his answer was very. Okay. Well, and then DJ Zulo kind of going where my mind is going here, which is that 11 weeks until the final game of the regular season. Because, man, it's amazing how everything can change in a heartbeat. We finished talking about the game. Grimes, tough few weeks, comes in, has maybe his best stretch since the trade in terms of hitting threes, being aggressive, attacking the hoop. The free throw thing is just weird. I don't know what to say about the Grimes free throw thing, but it's weird. But I thought those were really important minutes for him. Will he be on this team in 2 weeks? I don't know. I'd like him to be. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm not worried about it too much. And the reason I'm not worried about it too much is I think we've seen through now 4 years of Leon Rose. Like, if they trade Quentin Grimes, I think we could be pretty certain they're going to get something very good back in terms of value. Leon Rose is not going to trade Quentin Grimes to trade Quentin Grimes. He's not going to do that. So, good game from Quentin Grimes. Hope it continues. OG Anunoby, and actually I'm going to save OG Anunoby for last. Couple other quick shout outs here. Precious Achiuwa, iHeart made his way back. He was out 2 games, made it back. Only played 16 minutes in this game. I'm not sure if that was a minutes limit thing. My guess is that it was more like, all right, I feel good enough to give it a go. Let's see how we are. He was not his usual self. Precious was the better of the 2 options. Precious Achiuwa ends up playing 31 minutes. Only went 2 of 7 from the field. Missed a couple layups there in the end of the third quarter when Miami made their push. But overall, I thought he played very well. 10 big rebounds in 31 minutes. He's better on the boards than I had any idea about. And that's big for this team. His defense is getting better and better. Like, he's just getting more comfortable. And I think that's really important with Mitch still out and with Hartenstein he's going to need to be managed for sure, especially with Julius missing time, because again, Julius is part of their thing. I spoke about this after the Denver game. Their thing is skill and size. Who epitomizes the combination of skill and size more than anybody on this team? It's Julius Randle. So if they miss Randle, they're going to need to replace both of those things. But the size part on the boards, Hardenstein's been great on the boards. If Achiuwa can help clean that up, I That would be big. So good game from Achua. Grimes, I forget when he had 1 3-pointer in this game, and when he hit it, I was like, that's a big three in the moment. It seems like every three he hits is a big three in the moment. But he gave them some good minutes. Let's talk about Anunoby, and then we'll finish up. Oh, and DiVincenzo. They made the Knicks made a big push at the end of the first quarter to get back in the game. I thought DiVincenzo was very important. Excuse me, second quarter to give them a little space. I thought DiVincenzo making some shots, making some plays. I thought was very important to that second quarter push. He always makes an impact. It's impossible to have a Knick game where DiVincenzo doesn't make an impact. It's very, very rare at this point. So good game from him. OG Anunoby. So if Randall's out for a while and OG Anunoby is your starting four for however long it's going to be, what does that mean? What does that look like? He's not like, it's not like, Tibbs is going to say next man up. Okay, fine. OG Anunoby isn't Randall. He's not a guy you're going to toss the ball to and be like, just draw two or score. That's Randall, which is why it is maddening to a lot of Randall's biggest supporters when people give him so much shit, because the rarity of having a guy who it's like, toss him the ball, go make a shot or draw two. That's why guys get paid $30 million a year. OG's going to get paid $30 million a year, but that's not his skill set. And how are they going to be able to make up if they lose Randall for a while? I do think OG's going to need to tap a little bit more into the on-ball stuff, which we've seen. We saw it today. We've been seeing more and more of recently. It's looked very good. It's going to look a little bit different, obviously, than what you do with Randall, but that'll be important. I think defensively is where, if there's one area where you're like, okay, here's why they could survive the loss of Randall if they miss him for a while. On defense, if you take out Randall, who, look, when he's trying hard and he's giving it full effort, I thought his effort was great in this game and has been really good by and large recently. Even that version of Randall, the best version of Randall on defense, if you take him out of your starting lineup defensively and you replace him with Josh Hart, because that's essentially what's going to happen. OG takes Randall's spot, Hart takes OG's spot. And then you have DiVincenzo still in there, and then whoever your center is. That's intimidating. That's intimidating. That's imposing. And I'm watching OG out there today do his thing, and I keep coming up with new analogies for him. He's like the fucking Terminator out there. He is a lifeless, soulless robot sent from the future to completely decimate your team's otherwise functional offense. That's OG Anunoby in a nutshell, because that's what he does, and we're going to need even more of that without Randall again, it feels unfair to say, because the Knicks have already been the best defensive team in the league since they got OG Anunoby. Well, if they miss Randall for a period of time, they're going to have to be even better. And ultimately it's going to fall on Brunson. To generate somehow even more offense than he already does. But OG takes a little bit of that load. I wonder if Hartenstein will take a little bit more of that load. He's going to need to. They're going to talk about needing him for offense. Josh Hart is going to need to be on his P's and Q's, so to speak. All of these guys. DiVincenzo has a little playmaking ability. He's going to need to tap into that. Everybody's going to need to pick up the slack. They're not going to replace Julius Randle with one player on this roster if he has to miss time, especially an extended period of time. And then, of course, the biggest question is, if they learn soon that he has to miss an extended period of time, how does that impact their trade deadline? Let's just say I don't want to throw dates out. If it's 4 weeks, if it's 6 weeks, I hope it's 4 days. I don't know, which is why I don't even want to talk about this, but it feels irresponsible. It feels irresponsible both to talk about it, and it feels irresponsible not to talk about it. So I don't know. I want to know more. I want to know more about what their plan is. If he's out for a while, I want to know more. I want to know how long they think he's going to be out. I want to know all these things. and then it'll gain some clarity. At the very least, I'll say this, and then we'll move on. We'll get to the prize picks and the super chats. If he is out for a sustained period of time, like they already needed an additional playmaker. I know watching today, you're like, you know what? Maybe they don't need an additional playmaker. Well, they would now if he went down for a sustained period of time. It would really increase the level of urgency for that. All right. Sorry if that was all over the place. The Randall thing just completely threw me. Completely threw me. And I was going to be, I mean, what's Andrew's phrase? Out the window? I was going to be out the fucking window today. And now we have to, but just like, look, oh, actually, I lied. Here's the last thing I'm going to say. And it references DJ Zulo's tweet from a little while ago. It's 11 weeks till the end of the regular season. At this point, I have enough faith in this team, trade or no trade, to make it through to the end of the regular season in such a position where, as long as Randall is back and healthy and effective by the start of the playoffs, I don't care if they're 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, 5 seed, 6 seed. Fuck. They could be the 7th seed. Honestly, at this point, the way I'm feeling right now, and I don't think they would fall to the 7th seed. If let's say Randall missed the entire rest of the regular season, they're playing so well right now and they're so good right now, I think they would figure out a way to still finish in the top 6. That may seem like a foolish statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. But I feel good about it. The seeding at this point doesn't matter to me. This team hit such a groove that the most important thing for me would be just get them some time before the playoffs to rediscover that groove. But more than anything, I hope that all of this Randall talk is going to sound like an utter waste of time when we get news, and that he's not out for very long.